Hi there, Victor Pross speaking to you, Anarchist artist. Okay, today I'd like to talk about the nature of the conflict between statism and anarchism, which I mean, of course, the philosophically principled Rothbardian property rights respecting voluntarism anarchism. That's the only kind of anarchism that I subscribe to, and not the Sid Vicious, Sex Pistols type of caricature pop culture, contrived, rebellious, confrontational youth angst-driven kind of anarchism, which has become kind of the popular association, right? So, yeah, it's this type of cultural mess up that you have to find yourself jumping through hoops and standing on your head and twisting yourself into pretzels trying to explain to people if you are an anarchist or a voluntarist or what have you, and however long you might have held to this position, whether it's been going on decades or whether you're kind of like new to these ideas and as spurred by the media and the world events that are going on around you, or certain intellectual circles that you might have been exposed to these type of ideas. However you came to it, it's important to know the nature of the conflict of your fellow human beings who are largely still mentally enmeshed into a statist paradigm. Now, in this video, it's not like I've never touched on this before, and it's certainly not in the case of other people who have not broached this before. Stefan Molyneux, Michael Shanklin, Rothbard himself. I mean, all the great thinkers have driven the point home, and I feel that I would be remiss if I didn't put my 2 cents into it as well. Okay, so not necessarily to put myself in the same company of the people that I just cited, but hey, I'm primarily an artist. Take a look at my work there. But even where that's concerned too, it's sociological and politically based art for by and large. So I guess hopefully there's a thinking person behind it. Anyway, now to get to the nature of the conflict, the political divides. What are the political divides that you could have? Well, you have the political divide of left versus right. Whenever you watch these guys on TV, it's amazing. This is one of the things that I find very amazing as a thoughtful, thinking, conscientious person who's continuously self-educating. And basically, as an artist, I like to pay attention to people. I like to pay attention to what's going on in the world, given that there's a subtext to a lot of my art. And sometimes it comes out very cautiously. I have a very cautious idea behind the painting. Sometimes it just comes out in subconscious. I look at a painting and I go, wow, I didn't realize I had that in the back of my head to come forward on the canvas. But this is one of the amazing things that I find about people in the modern world. I do feel like I am this alien intelligence that has like a complete objectivity and just able to look at the facts, right? And I'm looking on my fellow human beings with a bemused disdain, objectivity, analytical coldness, and precision in my insights and things like that. And I think that could be very helpful kind of a frame of mind to approach a painting with. But just as a thinking person too, I do watch people. So in the sense of furthering my self-education, to be very observant, I try to hone that. Something to recommend for you to do. Just really watch people, listen to the headlines, and survey popular culture, and eavesdrops on conversations in restaurants when people talk about politics. If you're aware of these things, if you're conscious, just listen to people, just listen to them. So whenever you have two talking heads, elephant, donkey, left, right, bullshit dichotomy, false constructs like left and right, battling away, it's amazing to listen to these chattering, empty-headed, blabbering boxes talk about the merits of their side versus the merits of the other person's side, but they're all talking within a paradigm of violence. It's like the left and the right really don't have any fundamental differences whatsoever. They're both for violence because they're statists. They're statists. So why don't we just really, very quickly, identify the nature of political divides actual political divides based on fundamental ethical principles, and let that be the focus here. So it's not left and right, and it's not even violence, or it's not even the state versus the individual. It's much more fundamental than that. Much more fundamental than that. It's this. It's violence and coercion versus voluntarism and cooperation. Violence and coercion versus peaceful cooperation and voluntarism. That's the ethical divide. That's the ethical divide. That is what is fundamental to the expansion of the human species, and to the and when it comes to the study of ethics, what's wrong or right, once you understand the roots, the fundamentals of violence and coercion versus voluntarism and peaceful cooperation, all the other conundrums and ready-made conundrums that people like to spring on you, whether it be about abortion or cheating on your spouse, and like all the other ethical questions are up on a top layer level, and things like that. They're very worthy discussions. Sometimes it's not just black and white. There can be gray areas. Sometimes it is just a case of black and white, and identifying things in order to do the right thing, and making choices that can be difficult. I mean, there can be these kind of issues where you have to sort it out and really have to think about it, and the answers aren't just ready. But there's nothing. But when you get down to the roots of ethics, though, I mean, violence is. You've completely closed the system down of ethical inquiry altogether. I mean, there is no time to think about, well, should I use violence in this case, and I want to do the right thing, so maybe in this case it's the right thing to do, but in some other case it's not, and things like, no, like violence shuts down the conversation altogether. As soon as you initiate violence, the game is over. Okay, ethics has been jettisoned out of the scene altogether. Okay, where as Ayn Rand said, where morality ends where a gun begins, and that's fundamentally true. Now look at the society that you live into, where these two chattering boxes, you might be on some CN or Fox News or whatever, and they're sitting there talking about the merits of this, the merits of that, and immigration. There could be pro and con, and the left and the right, and all top layer discussions on completely minutia, irrelevant, out of context scenarios of discussions. They're philosophizing and blabbering away midstream on issues where both fundamentally agree that coercion and violence is necessary. They just differ on what they consider to be the proper application of it, and what areas that it should be exercised, and where. And whatnot. So one might be pro censorship, the other one might not be in favor of censorship, but might be in favor of immigration and a progressive tax and things like that. So where they have different areas, the left and right paradigm, where what they want to be left free, and where in the areas where they want to control, to use violent control. So, but fundamentally though, they're both in favor of violence. So it doesn't matter if the espouse economic, if you have the right who espouses economic freedom, in greater economic freedom in their approach to politics, but they're still in favor of taxation, of course, right? They're just in favoring greater economic freedom, and the left, usually associated with communists or socialists, greater economic control, but more freedom in the realm of personal morality and the expression of ideas, but you have to understand that both are in favor of coercion and violence, whereas the anarchist, the voluntarist, recognizes the ethical divide, right at the root, right at the fundamental root. Okay, and I know that you have to jump through all types of hoops, and you have to break mental barriers about when trying to describe anarchism, and some people just can't get beyond the word, anarchism. It just sounds so violent and confrontational, and it can be those things too, I guess, right? But the core, though, the core of this type of philosophy of anarcho-capitalism or just basic voluntarism, anarchism, is to recognize the ethical divide right down the middle that separates violent coercion from peaceful cooperation and voluntarism, and that's the only thing that you have to to hold to, really. I mean, just do an Occam's razor and take away all this other shit, people's sputtering and spattering about, well, we should, if you're listening to these left-wing and right-wing pundits talk about, well, we should have greater economic freedom in this area, shouldn't propose new taxes, just keep the status quo, keep the taxes that we have, repeal this tax and have that tax, maybe it's just it's ridiculous. They're setting up all these charts about what concentrated areas to have violence and what should be left more free and things like that. Get rid of all that stuff, man. Remove that from the mental slate. And talking to these blabbering heads, you'll find that politics becomes less confusing, a lot less confusing, if you just get to the fundamental issues. And the fundamental issues when it comes to anarchism is that of an ethical divide. The ethical divide is between not so much as the left and the right, and not even the state versus the individual. It is simply violence and coercion versus voluntarism and peaceful cooperation. That's it. That's it. That's where the black and white comes into it. I mean, you either practice and advocate and espouse and in favor morally of one over the other, and I mean, like in the sense of an actual black and white divide, not where you're talking about having violence sometimes and only in these slotted areas. I'm talking about a fundamental oppositional, polar opposite approach to the mainstream world that we live in today, this existing violent paradigm. That's what the anarchist is really opposing. It's the anarchist that understands the actual ethical divide. Do you? Victor Pross, anarchist artist, signing out. Pop goes the culture.